Hello, I want to make sure I'm in the right place. Can you all hear me?
Hi, Kala. Hi, everyone. Hi, Kala.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well. How you doing too?
I'm good. I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. Everyone's so quiet in here.
Looking to start soon.
Great, just let me know when you're ready to start.
All right, all right. So I'm trying to let everyone know that we've started already. So they'll be joining very soon. Okay. Okay. I think we should be starting about now. Femi's long call.
Great. So you want me to start?
Um,
You
before
want me
we
to wait?
start,
Yeah.
Femi would share a bit about what we do at DSI. And I would give a brief introduction of our guest speaker, that is you, and after that we'll start proper.
Things that I had been doing with programming so much faster. And so I'm really excited to kind of share with all of you today how Bubble works and how you can build an app pretty fast using Bubble. And I can get up to speed on how Bubble works. So
Awesome.
let's just talk about what Bubble is. You all recently had a no-code, an introduction to like dive too much into what no-code is. I just want to talk about what makes Bubble unique in the no-code space. So Bubble is a visual programming language. Basically what that means is we follow all those traditional programming concepts, but we do it in a visual way. So you can build an app in a matter of minutes as opposed to weeks, months, without using code. So you can drag and drop elements onto the page. You can, point and click and create workflows, and it's very user-friendly. It's really open-ended. You can kind of build and design however you want. We're giving you the tools to create an application that's really dynamic as if you built it with code, but you don't have to learn a line of code, which is really exciting. It is also the only tool out there that allows you to build an application like Airbnb, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all sorts of other platforms that are common that you're used to using. So that's really unique. Like there are no other platforms out there that allow you to really build extremely dynamic applications in the way that Bubble does. So let's talk about what does Bubble enable you to do? So like we said, you can design and program more quickly than code. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to, launch your business, you can launch it in a matter of hours instead of months. You don't have to hire a developer to build an app in Bubble. You can build it yourself. You can have more agency over how you control what your application looks like, how you can make updates to it. As your business scales, you can, Bubble will scale with you. The app will grow with you. We have different tiered plans that allow for a larger application. So imagine your app goes viral and you need more capacity. You need your app to be able to handle more users. You can easily upgrade your application to handle thousands and thousands of users, which is really, really a cool part of Bubble. The other thing I really like about Bubble is it allows you to have collaborators. And so anyone can get into that editor and make changes and experiment with how to build in Bubble, which I think is pretty cool. So the main core of what we're going to do today is I really want to demo for all of you how Bubble works. So before we do this, I'm going to put a link in the chat. And this is just a coupon code that we're offering you all today. This coupon, let me make sure I have all the information correct about how it works. It gives you 50% off for any plan for 2 months, it does expire within a month. So if you want to maybe follow along while I do the demo, you can go ahead and click on that, sign up for a Bubble account, and then you can put your app on a paid plan anytime within the month before this coupon expires. You can also follow along today on our free hobby plan, so you don't have to pay for any subscription today if you just want to kind of follow along while I build. Okay. So feel free to click on that. So what we'll do is I'm going to give you all a rundown of how the Bubble editor works. It looks like to do app. I think in every programming language, this is like the first thing that everyone builds, you know, because it allows us to learn how to create things in our databases, how to read things, how to update things, how to delete things, which are kind of the core functions of every single thing that we do in a website. So we're going to kind of walk through that. We're going to build an entire app from beginning to end. And then I want to walk you all through some educational resources. If there are, you know, if you plan on continuing to build with Bubble, other places that you can find more learning opportunities to get up to speed on how Bubble works. And then at the end, it's about how to build in Bubble and questions out at here. So feel free to put questions in the Q&A, and I will try my hardest to answer them as I'm building. If you have questions that are not related to the build, I ask that we save them till the end for the Q&A portion. But if you do have questions about what I'm doing specifically during the demo, feel free to throw those in the chat, and I will try to answer them while I'm doing the demo. All right, so let's get started building. This is my Bubble homepage. Give me a thumbs up that you can. I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen. If you can either throw a yes in the chat, just let me know. I want to make sure that you see homepage. Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So great. So this is my Bubble homepage. When I log into Bubble, this is what I see. It's a list of all the applications that I've ever created. There are a lot here because I create apps all day long. This is my job. You may not have this many. You may have one when you first start. You may not have any. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new application. So we're just going to click on this new app button. We're just going to call this, what is today's date? The 19th? I don't even know what day it is. The 19th, 2/19. We'll just name this accordingly to today. You can name these whatever you want. Okay, so I'm going to leave that blank. I'm just going to fill all this stuff out really quick so we can get started. And then we create a new application. So once this loads, Bubble is going to give you two options to start your app. You can either start from a boilerplate or you can start from a blank page. Since I already know what I want to build today, I'm going to start from a blank page. But I do recommend as you start, you know, trying to get familiar with Bubble and see how it works, that you inspect how this page works. You know, I think when you're learning anything, it's kind of fun to kind of tear apart something that already exists and like play around with it and see how it works. And like that's how I learned. So I would recommend, you know, that's a really fun way to just kind of get a feel for what Bubble offers on this page. So I'm going to close out this. I'm going to click start with a blank page. So we get a blank page here. I'm going to close the assistant. And now we have our editor. So the Bubble editor, this big old blank page here is where we're going to design our application. So we are currently in our design tab. We have 7 tabs here on the left. I'll walk you through all of them. So this design tab is where we design what our users are going to see. So for instance, if I want to draw a button on this page, I can click button over here under visual elements. I can draw a button on my page. I can change the text in the property editor, and you'll see now we have a button that says click me. Awesome. This button doesn't do anything yet. So that leads us to our next tab, the workflow tab. So this is where we are going to create actions, things that are going to happen on our page when we do something, when our user does something, right? So maybe when the page loads, when they click on this button, when some input data changes. This is where we're going to decide what happens when we do that. So the way we do this, back on our design page, I'm going to click on click me again. Oh, I see somebody asked, can we only use PCs? I am using a Mac, so I don't actually have a PC. So I do know that Bubble does work on a PC, but I'm building on a Mac. So you can use both. So here I have this button. I'm going to click Start Edit Workflow. And now I have this thing here that says when button click me is clicked. Click here to add an action. So what do I want to have happen when my user clicks that button? Bubble gives me a bunch of options. I can sign my user up. I can log them in. I can create an account. I can navigate to another page. I can create new things in my database, update things, delete things, send emails, make elements show or hide, all sorts of things. And as I start building, we'll get to see these in action. So for now, I'll just delete that. All right, so our next tab is our data tab. The data tab is where we're going to track and store our data. I like to think about this kind of like a spreadsheet. You know, this is where we define how our data looks and then how we, where we store it. So all Bubble apps come with a user data type. This data type is unique, and then it comes with an email and a password field. We don't allow you to see the password field because we try to keep that as secure as possible, but we do give you a reset password link, so it's easy to change those passwords. And when you view your data under our App Data tab, this is where we would view all the data that already exists in our application. And we'll look at this again once we actually start putting data in our application. All right, so then we have our styles tab. I'm not going to go too much into this today, but this is basically where you can define reusable styles throughout your application. Bubble gives us a bunch of default styles, so we're just going to go ahead and use those today. We have our plugin tab. This is where you can add extra functionality to your application. So for instance, you want to have your users, you know, maybe sign up for a subscription, enter some credit card information. You want some secure payments. You can add our Stripe plugin, which allows for secure information being held by Stripe as opposed to you. You don't want to hold your users' credit card information directly in your database. That could potentially be unsafe. So even though Bubble, our security is really great, ideally there are things that you don't want to store. So you would access a third-party API like the Stripe API, and then Stripe would take care of all that information for you. And you would add the plugins here with the plugin store. There's a ton of other features and things you can add here, so I recommend playing around with this and seeing what else, what other kind of features you can add. We have our settings tab. I won't dive too much into this today, but all Bubble apps start on a hobby plan. This is our free plan, so that's what we're going to build on today. But this is where you would upgrade your plan if you want to use some of our other features that require being on a paid plan. This is where you would set your custom domain. If you want to use Bubble as a database, as a backend for some third-party front end that you created, you can enable the data API. A ton of other things in here. Again, there's a lot of stuff here. I'm not going to go over each thing specifically, but I do recommend that if you are interested in building in Bubble, spend some time getting familiar with these tabs. And again, when I show you all the resources later, there will be more places for you to find more information on how this stuff works. Okay, the last tab is our logs tab. So this tab is where we view all the metrics and how our application is running. So remember we were talking about what if your app goes viral and it crashes because it just doesn't have enough capacity to handle all of the users that just, you know, hit it and we need to upgrade. This is where you would see that information. You would see if your app hit capacity. You would see how it's running. You can see if your server actions are failing or if they are, you know, how they're working. If, you know, this is a really great place to debug and see how the app is just running. Okay, so these are our 7 tabs. The last couple things I want to show you up here, we have where we're going to view all of our pages in the application. So right now we're on our index page. This is the page that all Bubble apps come with. This is your home page. Bubble also comes with reusable elements. We will look at these in just a minute once we start building. Over here we have all of our versions. All Bubble apps come with 2 versions. We have a development version and a live version. When you're building in your development version. Once you are ready to deploy your app to live and you want users to use this application, you would click this deploy current version to live and that would create a live version. So right now we have not deployed to live, so we don't have access to our live version yet. we are going to build in our development version. We're going to create test data in our development version database. Once we deploy to live, our live database is a separate database. Sometimes people get a little bit confused about this. They deploy to live and they go, where'd all my data go? You don't have any because it's a different database. So you have to, we don't want to muddy up our live data with our test data. So we try to keep these two things separate. However, in your data tab, you can always copy your database from your development database over to your live database if you want to use that data in both places. Okay, that's a lot of things. I talk really fast, I know. So if there's something you want me to go over again, feel free to throw it in the chat and I will clarify some things. I'm just really excited to get to the build, so I want to get there because I think watching how to build in Bubble, I think, is the best way to see what Bubble can do. So let's take a look at what we're going to build today. I've created this application. It is very simple. This is not by any means the most beautiful app that I've ever created. This app is just so we can learn the basics of Bubble and how it works. So it's a very simple to-do app. It's called Too Much To Do because we all have too much to do. And this is our landing page. So if this were Facebook, you'd probably have a lot more things on this. Maybe you would have ads. Maybe there would just be a lot more going on. It'd be flushed out, a little more designed. For us, we just have a header. So it's called Too Much To Do. When I log in and sign up, it's going to pull up a login sign up pop-up form. I've already created an account here, so I'm just going to log in. All right. And I have a really bad password, so Chrome is going to keep telling me that. I tend to make really bad passwords, like 123 when I'm testing things, just because it's fast and easy. I don't recommend using a 123 password. So here's my application. It's too much to do. Once I log in, it shows me this here, which is a list of all my items that I have to do. I have a ton of items that I need to do here. I have a little form here that I can fill out to add items to my list. So let's add something today. What do we need to do? We need to, let's see, make lunch after this. And we're going to do this today. So we're going to click a date. We're going to add to do. And it's going to add it down here. We have a lot of items to do on the 19th, which is today. So it's down here in our list. Let's say we already did this. We can click this little checkbox and it's going to remove it from our list. Let's remove a bunch of things. We already did a bunch of this stuff. Maybe we made a pie already. We took a yoga class. So we can just kind of keep removing things and then add as many things as we want. It also, up here, it shows the date. So this would be today's date. And then we have our due date for all of our items. So super simple app. We are going to, today, we're going to create things, we're going to read things, we're going to update things. We are not going to delete things. So I recommend that if that's something you want to do, you can add the delete action if you're following along. And if we have time, maybe we can add the delete action as well. So I'm just going to log out here and let's start building. So we have our app here. And the first thing I like to do when I build is to think about my data. So what is the data that I want to track and store in my application? So it's a to-do app. So we know that we need to store to-dos, right? Somehow we need a way to track those. We're already able to store our user who logged in, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and find a way to track our to-dos. So I'm just going to create a new data type here called to-do. And now you'll see I have a data type called to-do. And I have fields for type to-do over here. So all data types come with these fields. So they come with a creator field, modified date, created date, and a slug. A slug is just a unique identifier for the URL. For instance, say you're viewing your Facebook profile page. You want it to say like facebook.com/Carla, or Facebook/ whatever your name is or your username. These are unique identifiers. So here we have our to-do. We've created, this is just kind of the structure of the to-do and the things we want to store. So let's think about the other things we want to store with the to-do. So if we go back to our application, let me log back in. All right, so here you'll see we are storing, we have a title and we have a due date. So we just need to add two fields here. So I'm going to add a field called title. This field is just going to be a simple text field. And basically, when we think about the field type, we think about what is the thing that our user is going to input. So our user is going to input text. So we want to create that with a text field. The other thing that we're going to do is a due date. And this is going to be a field type date because it's a date, not text. And then we're actually going to create one more field. We need a way to track how or if our to-do has been finished or not, right? We're not actually going to delete it from our database because, for instance, let's say later on I want to create another page that shows all the to-dos that I've ever done. I want to be able to have access to the to-dos that I finished yesterday. So I don't want to actually delete them from my database. If I delete them, it removes them forever and I no longer have access to them. But I can create a way to update them so that I can track if I finished them or not. So we're going to create a new field. It's going to be called done. And every time I have a field that is a question, that the answer is always going to be yes or no, I like to add a question mark in there just as a visual reference to say, hey, this is always going to evaluate to yes or no. So this field is going to be of type yes, no. So when we think about this, every time we create a new to-do, and we ask ourselves, is this to-do done? The answer is going to be no. So we want to default this to no. So every time we create a new to-do, this field is always no. And I'll show you how this works once we start filtering, because we really want to think about this is how we're going to decide what we view on our page and what we don't view. So this looks pretty good. This is all we need to track on to-dos. So let's go ahead and start building. So I'm going to delete this big old button here. And the first thing we have here is let's log back out, we have this kind of header. So one thing I want you to notice actually with this is that this header doesn't stretch the entire width of the page. So our page is actually set to fixed width here. So what that means, I'm going to click here. We're on this is the property editor for the page itself. We can just click here and go make this fixed width. And so that means our page is always going to be this width. I'm actually going to change the width of this page. It's a little long for me. Let's make it 950. Let's go with 900. Okay. So now we have this is the width of our page. So it's fixed width, which means it's always going to be this width. And now I'm going to just add a group. So over here on the left in our design tab, we have some options. We have visual elements that we can drag on the page. We have containers, we have input forms, and we have reusable elements. So containers are basically just a way to hold a bunch of things. If you know anything about programming, a group is similar to, say, a div. It's just a container to hold other items. So we want to create a group. We're going to draw a group on the page. I'm just going to grab the edges here and click them into the edges of my page. Pull this up here to the top. And remember, we're going to utilize our default styles that Bubble gives us. So I'm going to use group border so I can see it a little bit better. So now you can see we have a little border around there. And let's see, that looks pretty good. If I wanted to remove the style here, and I wanted to edit this myself, I can remove the style, and then it gives me a bunch of options to make changes to this group however I want. But I'm going to use the style. I feel pretty good about it right now, so we're going to just leave it there. So now we need to add some stuff in here. It looks like we have a text element here, and we have a button. So let's add our text element. Just grab a text element here. We draw this on the page. The property editor immediately pops up for it. We can title it. And then again, we're going to utilize a style that Bubble gives us. So H1 heading dark is right there. So now I'm actually going to make a little edit to this. I like this style a lot, but I'm going to remove it. It's still there. All the settings for it exist, but I can center it inside of that text box. It comes, the basic setting for the style is to have it left adjusted. I want it centered. So all I have to do is remove the style and add that right there. All right, so now we have that. I also want this centered in this group that I added. So I can right click on this to bring up this editor here, and I can click on center horizontally. So now you'll see these little red lines. It's centering this item horizontally on my page. Super easy. I don't have to do anything else. So now let's grab a button. We'll draw this here on our page. This button is just going to say login, sign up. And that looks pretty good. Let's just center this vertically between the top and the bottom. We'll center this one vertically as well. All right, so now this looks pretty good. This looks similar to what we're trying to build. Let's add some functionality. So the first thing we need to add is when we click on this button, it's going to pull up a pop-up. So this login sign up pop-up comes with every Bubble app. It's a reusable element. We don't have to create it. It already exists. So we're just going to go ahead and use that. Over here in my pages, I have this section called Reusable Elements, and I have this thing called Sign Up Login Pop-up. So the way reusable elements work is they work similarly to any other element, but they live in a separate place. So instead of them living here with all of our elements, they live under here. But if I click on Sign Up Login Pop-up, you'll see that this is not actually a page in our application. It's just an element like any other element. And this element comes with, we click on Elements tree here, we can see all the things that come with this page. So we have a sign-up form. Show all of them. So we're reviewing the sign-up form right now. I can hide it. I can view the login form. I can hide that. I can view our reset password link. So this is pretty great. It comes with everything we need. We don't actually have to build out a login for our application. We can just use this. And then you can customize this as you want. So this makes creating this workflow really, really easy. So the workflow for this, it has our login, it has our sign up, it has everything that we need. So we don't have to worry about anything. When button login is clicked, we log the user in, and then we hide the pop-up. So we're going to just draw this reusable element on our page. So I'm going to go back to my index page. If I scroll all the way down here on the left, you're going to see reusable elements at the bottom. And this is the one we want to use. So I just click on it. I draw it on my page. And now I have sign up login pop-up on my page. If I hover over it, I can't edit it here. I have to go back over here to edit this element, but I do have access to it now on my page, which is great. So now I'm going to click away from it. It's still on the page. You see it's just grayed out because it's hidden. I want to create a workflow on this button to display this pop-up. So if I click on the button again, I'm going to click Start Edit Workflow, and you'll see now when button sign up login is clicked, the action I'm going to create is an element action, and it's show. We want to show the element sign up login pop-up A. I'm just going to click that. So now we have this action to show this when we click that button. Now, one thing I want to point out is this button, right? It says login or sign up when we are not logged into the app. When I log in, notice it changes to log out. So there's something that's changing on this button based on some conditions. So when my user is logged in, it says log out. When my user is not logged in, it says sign up or log in. And it has two different actions on it as well. When my user is not logged in and they press this button, it pulls up a pop-up to sign up and log in. When my user is logged in and they press this button, it logs them out of the application. So let's go ahead and add some conditions here on these actions, and we'll add that other action to log our user out. So here we have show sign up login pop-up A. We have on our element, on the property editor here, we have this only when. This is where we're going to set up this condition. So we want to show this pop-up only when our current user is not logged in, so isn't logged in. Now we're going to add another action here. And this action is going to be an account action called log the user out. And we're only going to do this when our current user is logged in. So we just differentiate between what we want to do on that button when they're logged in and what we want to do when they're not logged in. The last piece of this puzzle is to change the text based on those same conditions. So if I click here, it's going to say login sign up is our default, but then we add this condition. So define another condition. When my current user is logged in, the property to change when true is going to be the text. And I want this text to say log out. Super simple. So now this means only when this is true will the text change. So if it's not true and the user is not logged in, it's going to default to login sign up. All right, so this looks pretty good. Let's take a look and see if it works. So we're going to preview our app. We haven't looked at it yet. See if it looks like anything we've just created. It's going to take a second to load. Here we go. Okay, so this is the app we just created. when I click this, hopefully the pop-up should show. Awesome, it shows. So we don't have any users in this app yet, so let's just create another user, sign up. All right, and so now we can check if this worked because, look at this now says log out. So we know that our login, our flow to create a user and log in immediately works. So we're now logged into the app. If I click this, it should change to login sign up because now we're logged out. Awesome. So now we know this works. Let's move on and get to the fun stuff. So the rest of the app, once we log in, what do we want to see here? So again, remember we were talking about groups. I left a border around this group just so we could see it here. So this is going to be another group that's going to hold a bunch of stuff. This group is also going to have a condition on it because we don't want to view this group if we're not logged in. So let's add this group and then add that condition. So again, I go down to containers, I grab a group. I'm going to draw this group here. Again, we're going to just snap those into the end so everything is the same amount of pixels. Okay. And again, we're going to change the style to group border just so we can see it. Now you see we can see the edges. And on this group, group B, we can change the name. Let's call it group body. Let's add a condition. The condition here is when our current user is logged in, this element is visible. And we're going to check this little box here. So we want to make sure that this element is only visible if our current user is logged in. So the last piece of this puzzle is on the main page here, we have an option to this element is visible on page load. We want to uncheck that because we do not want that to be our default. Our default should be that this element is not going to load unless our user is logged in. So now it looks like that works. Our user is logged in. So this should not show. So let's just test it out really quick, actually. So I'm going to refresh my page because I made some changes. I'm going to log in, sign up. Let's go back and log in. All right. Now you can see this works. Our condition is true. We can't see it when we're not logged in, but we can see it when we are logged in. So now let's go ahead and throw some stuff in there. It looks like we have today's date, our little form here, a text element, and then this thing. We'll talk about what this is in just a second. So I'm going to just draw a text element up here that's going to have the date, and we're going to insert dynamic data. So this is really cool. This allows us to insert data that's going to be changeable that we don't have to worry about changing ourselves. So the dynamic data here that we're going to insert is our current date time. And you will all see a different date time here because this is going to display in whatever your browser's date time is. So once I click more, I want to format this because I want to have a little more control over what this time looks like. So I format it as, we'll do the full date, Friday, February 19th, 2021. And again, you can see current user's time zone. So it's always going to display in whatever time zone the user who's viewing my app is going to see. So I now have this element on my page. Let's go ahead and add our form. So what's this form? We have a title, date, and a button. So we'll add those here. So these are going to be under input form items. So I can just click input. I'm going to draw an input element here. And I'm going to change the placeholder to title so my user knows that's what I want them to put in. We're going to add now a date time picker so my user can pick a time. And let's make this. We'll make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay, so now we have our date time picker. And then we're going to add one more thing. We're going to add a button so that our user can create a new to-do. And I'm going to snap this so it's right next to my other elements. Great. And we can make it, pull it down so it's all about the same size. Okay, so now we have these three things. Let's change this here. We'll just put create new to-do. Now we have a very simple form. We will come back and we will edit. We'll make some magic happen here with this to-do button in just a minute. All right, so the last thing here I'm going to add is we have this due date here. So let's add another text element. And this is just going to say due date. Let's make it a little bit bigger so the text fits in there. Great. Okay, and here again, actually, I'm going to remove this style so I can right adjust that inside of that. You can see if I can adjust it here. So now we've just right adjusted it. We'll snap this so it lines up with the bottom of these. Okay, so the last thing here is we need a way to display all of our to-dos. So this element here is called a repeating group. So a repeating group is just a way to display a list of things. So anytime you know that you need to display a list of items on your page, you want to think repeating group all the way. So let's go ahead and add a repeating group. So these are again under containers. It's right underneath the group. And I'm going to draw a repeating group on my page. And we have to give a repeating group a type of content. So our type of content here is we want this repeating group to display our to-dos. So I'm just going to grab a to-do. I'm going to say the type of content for this is going to be to-do. And I have to give this a data source. So where do I want to get the data for this to-do or for this repeating group? And so what we want to do is we want to go into our database and we want to grab all the to-dos out of there. So what that looks like is we do a search for, which do a search for basically just means go to my database and search for something. And we tell it what we want to search for. We want to go to my database, search for some to-dos, and we're going to add some constraints because I don't want to view every single to-do from my database, right? Like if I'm logged into my app, I only want to view my to-dos. So I don't want to view your to-dos. And same thing, you don't want to view my to-dos. So we're going to add a constraint here, and we're going to utilize that created by field that comes with every single data type. So we're going to say where created by equals the current user. So this way we only return all the users that my current user who's using the app has created. The other thing we're going to add here is, remember we created that done field? We only want to view the items where done equals no. So this way we don't view any of our to-dos that have been finished. And then we're going to add a sort by here because we want to make sure that these are in order. So we're going to view we're going to sort them by their due date. Descending is going to be no. And I think that should be pretty good. All right, so let's close this out. Now, we have to add a way to view the items in the cells. So every time you return a list of things, each one of these cells in our repeating group is going to represent one item in our list of things. So we have access to the cells now, but we don't have access to any way to view the things in the cells. So we're going to add a text element here. Just draw a big text element on this page, and this is we're going to insert dynamic data, and now you're going to see we have this option for current cells to do. So I want to view the current cells to do title. You can see here we have the title, then we have the due date, and then we have this little checkbox, this little icon. So let's put this right here. I'm actually going to change the repeating group style to standard repeating group so we can view the border. Now you can see the border around it. So let's also change this to H2 dark so it's a little bit bigger. And we'll move that over. Okay, so now we've got the title. Let's put a way to view the due date. So I'm going to just grab another text element. I'm going to draw this here. Insert dynamic data. The current cells to do is due date. Again, we're going to change this to H2 heading dark so it's a little bit bigger. We're also going to remove the style and right adjust it. Okay, so now we've got, let's kind of line these up. Great. So now we want to add that icon here, this checkbox. So I'm just going to go to my visual elements. I'm going to grab icon. I'm going to draw a little icon here. And I'm going to search for checkbox, little check. Great, so now we've got this big check here. All right, so that looks pretty good. So now we have a way to view the items in each cell. You'll notice that we didn't have to fill any of this out. We only have to fill out the first cell, and that will allow every item to kind of follow in the style of the first cell and make it all look similar. So now we have a way to, we have a form, we have this. Last thing we need to do is we need to actually make this form work. So I'm going to click on this button here, and I'm going to start edit workflow. And here I'm going to say when button create new to do is clicked, click here to add an action. So I want to go to my data things and I'm going to create a new thing. So create a new thing is going to create a new thing in my database. So we click create a new thing. The type of thing is going to be a to do, and we're going to set the fields. So Remember we created those fields, the title field, the due date field. So this is where we're going to tell what we want the value of those fields to be. So I say I want the title field to equal, and now down here I have the options for the inputs that I created. So I have input titles value, and then I can set the due date is going to be that date time picker A's value. And Bubble just adds like A, B, C, whatever onto the ends of these to name them, to differentiate them from other ones. You can name this whatever you want. You could name this date time picker to do, and then I would say date time picker to do's value. All right, so we don't have to set our done field. Remember we set that default, so they're always going to be no when we start. So this looks pretty good. The last thing we add is we want to add an element action to reset the inputs. This is really important just because we don't want all of our data to keep hanging out in the form after we've submitted it and created a new thing. So we're going to just do reset relevant inputs. All right, so now that we've got that working, let's test it out actually. Let's see if this works. So we're going to refresh our page. All right, so now you can see we've got all the information. Everything we just created is now on our page. As mentioned, we have no to-dos because we haven't created any. So let's go ahead and create a to-do. We're going to do dishes. We'll do these today. Awesome. And it magically appears in my repeating notes. So let's add one more thing here. Grocery shop. We'll do that, let's say tomorrow. Great, so now everything is getting added as I want it. It's being displayed in the order of, it's being sorted by the order of the due date properly. So now let's just add some functionality to this check mark, right? We want this check mark to let us know that we finished it. So I am going to go back to my editor. I'm going to click on this checkbox, and we are going to start edit a workflow. And you'll see now we have when icon Fafa check is clicked, and obviously you can change the name of this icon all you want. It does not have to be called Fafa check. We're going to add an action. So when I click on that, I'm going to do another data thing action, right? Because I want to update the to-do that I clicked on. So the update here is make changes to a thing. So I make changes to the current cell's to-do. So what will happen is this will grab whichever cell that I clicked on, that to-do. So I do current cells to-do. And the thing I'm going to change here is, remember we have our done field. So done is going to change to yes. So this way, that condition that's on that repeating group to display only to-dos where done is no, once we flip it to yes, it's not going to match that condition anymore, so it won't be viewable in our repeating group anymore. So that's pretty much that. That's all we have to add to get that to work because we have the conditions set up. Let's test it out. All right, so let's say we already did dishes. Awesome, it removes it immediately. We grocery shopped, great. Now I want to show you, because we updated these and we didn't delete them, they still exist in my database. So here, if I go to my app data tab and I click on all to-dos, you'll see that the items that I did are here, but the done field is yes. So let's create one more to-do here so you can see, so we have to watch WandaVision tonight, because that's what we do on Friday nights. Create a new to-do. All right, so now we have this here. Let's go back to our database. We're going to refresh our data. And you'll see now that that's here. We have a new row in our data, and this done field is no. So we're not actually deleting anything. We're updating it. If we wanted to delete, we could add maybe another icon here that's a trash can. And the trash can, we could add an action on that trash can to delete the item. That workflow here, you can see under data things, we have delete thing, and it's just as simple as adding a delete thing action. You say thing to delete, current cells to do, and that's going to remove it forever from your database. We're not going to add that here because we don't want to remove our to-dos, but that would be how we would do a delete if we wanted to delete something from our database. So the last thing I want to show you is I want to make sure that when my users create to-dos, they don't accidentally leave these fields empty. So we're going to just add one more thing onto these inputs. We have this input should not be empty. So I'm just going to click that on both of these inputs so that now if I try to submit, if I try to press this button without filling those out, it's going to not trigger that action. And it's going to say, hey, fill these out. You can't move forward until you fill these out. So we have to fill these out, right? We have to grocery shop or whatever we're going to do. And we can just keep adding and adding things to our list indefinitely. And this will always save to our database. We can log out and you'll see that the data does persist. So if I log back in, now you can see that our data has persisted. It disappears when we log out and it's still there when we log back in. Okay, so that concludes my demo. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat and I can go over anything else. I really want to, I want to show you some of our educational resources. So, you know, the first step to learning Bubble is to just start building. We think that you can learn, you know, how to do everything just by building. So you can start with some of our tutorial lessons. We have courses on our Academy page. I'll show you that in just a second. We also do have our manual. And then we do have, our boot camps. So our boot camps are 8-week programs, and they go through building an entire application from start to finish with a group of other people and an instructor to help you learn how to build your app. We do also have, let me show you here, we have our coaching marketplace. This is new. So if you want like one-on-one coaching, you can click here and find a coach that you want to work with, and they can help you with specific things you want to build in Bubble. This is where you'll find our manual. We are in the process of creating a ton of new video tutorials, so I recommend spending some time and looking at these. They're short. A lot of them are quick tips. They're like 30 seconds long to a minute long, and they just show how to do like really like quick little things in Bubble. We have a really great one on debugging that teaches you how to debug as you build, which I think is a really useful tool with any programming language, and even visual programming language, right? We need to be able to know, like, why isn't this displaying my user? We need somewhere to look. So we have a debugger, and this helps you learn how to use it. You'll find those interactive lessons down here. We do also have our How to Build series. I think these are really great for getting an idea for how to build your data, how to create and connect your data types for similar applications. You know, so how would I connect my data types for, say, a Netflix app? How would I create maybe a video thing in my database? And then how would I connect that video thing to, say, a user? This would be a really great way to just kind of get a feel for how to structure that data. We do have a lot of community resources, so you can check those out here. You can also contact my team directly at support@bubble.io or clicking this button. We do have a forum. I like to think of this forum as, if you know anything about programming, this is like Bubble's Stack Overflow. This is where you would go to get any sort of information about how Bubble works from other Bubble users. I think this is a really great place to find really specific information for specific use cases, to, you know, talk to other Bubble developers, to see how they're building things and get tips on how to maybe, you know, make your app more efficient, and a lot of other really cool things. So I would always check with the forum. The last thing I want to show you is our support page. The support page is where you can get answers to all of our like frequently asked questions. So if you're like, hey, do you have any discounts? This is where you would find those. So I already gave you guys all a discount link, but like say after that discount expires, we have other discounts available, and this is where you would find them. If you want to know, you know, how we host Bubble, you know, if we're HIPAA compliant, all sorts of things. So this is where you get all those commonly asked questions. This is also another great place to contact my team directly if you have very specific questions about how to do something. If you think you've found a bug in Bubble, you can submit a bug report here. We really recommend going through this bug report form if you really think something is a bug. So this would be where you would find that. And then we have our forum. This is, again, how you would get back to the forum. So that is how you can start building with Bubble. I'm just going to put up those resources again. This is where you would find all of those. And just as a reminder, I did put a link in the chat that gives you all 50% off. So make sure that if you do want to start building, you go through that link. You have to sign up for a plan within the first 30 days of clicking on that and signing up for a plan. So make sure that if that's something you want to do and you want 50% off of a paid plan, you sign up and upgrade your app to a paid plan within the 30 days. Yeah, I can share it again. Thank you. All right, so you guys should all see that link in the bottom of the chat now if you joined late. I forget that Google Meetings doesn't let you see any of the chat before you joined. So, and yes, the Academy is free. So you don't have to pay to view, where is this? Everything in our Academy page is pretty much free. Our coaches they are paid. They have their own pricing plans, and you can check that out there. All of our videos are free. The bootcamps do cost some money, but I think you can really learn how to use Bubble without having to pay for a bootcamp. I think our video tutorials do a really good job of explaining a lot of basic concepts, and I think the forum is a really great resource. So most of our users who are building today have not gone through bootcamps or paid for any resources to learn Bubble. So there's definitely a lot of free stuff out there that you can learn. Yeah, Academy, tutorials, and videos, all free. So I want to open it up to questions. I think we have a little more time left. So if you have any questions about what we did today, about maybe if you want to know if you can build something with Bubble, if you think it's possible, feel free to throw that stuff in the chat. You're also welcome to unmute yourself and ask the question directly. Totally up to you.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi.
After building the app, is it possible to ship the code to another server or to another hosting service?
That is a great question. At this time, no. We do not allow you to have access to the code. What we do allow you to have access to is your JSON object. So in your in your settings, under general, you can export your application as a JSON. However, we don't give you access to your app's code. So you wouldn't be able to take your code and maybe use it somewhere else in that way. You can also access all of the data in your database by downloading it or exporting it as a CSV file. But in terms of using the code directly, we don't allow that right now.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Another thing, can I put custom code into the app?
Yes. So while our team doesn't offer support for custom code, since we are a no-code builder, you can add custom code. So there are a few ways to do it. We do have an HTML element that you can draw on your page to add custom HTML directly to the application. There are a lot of plugins that add extra features. So there is a plugin called the Toolbox plugin, which allows you to add JavaScript directly into your Bubble app. We also do have something called the plugin editor. So you can create your own plugin. Plugins require some JavaScript knowledge because they're built, you have to build them using JavaScript. So you could create your own plugin using JavaScript to add whatever custom code you want to your app directly that way. So there are a few ways to kind of get around this and add more features if you want to add something very specific that maybe Bubble doesn't natively offer. So it's definitely worth looking into if that's, a road you want to go down. Our forum is, again, I hate to always push everyone to the forum, but I think the forum is just such a great resource. And we have expert builders who are using and building with custom code in Bubble all the time. And so that would be the best place to get more information on how to add custom code. And if you run into some issues with something in your custom code, a lot of them would have more suggestions on how to fix that and how to make that all work in your app.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, I see we have a question in the chat. Can I create an e-commerce app that I can add SEO? Yes, so you can absolutely create an e-commerce app. We have some examples in our, let's see, example apps. So I didn't bring up here, but I'm going to show you all our blog. So the blog is a really great place. We feature app of the day. And so you can find apps that we've featured and kind of browse through this to see what kind of apps you can build with Bubble and what our users are building. But you can absolutely build an e-commerce app. And then let me put this link here in the chat. I think this is a great place to just kind of, browse through what we have, what users are building. And then in the editor, you can add your SEO. So in our settings, there is an Seo Meta Tags. This is a little bit more advanced. It requires being on a paid plan. You can't update your SEO on a hobby plan. But this does allow you to add scripts into the header and the body of your app for SEO. Again, these are advanced settings. We recommend only updating these if you know what you're doing, because a lot of Bubble users are fairly new to programming. We recommend maybe holding off on updating your SEO until you've done a little more research on how they work. But if you already know what you're doing, this is where you would do that.
Hi, Carla.
Hi, what's going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, since Bubble looks really great for building, and you don't allow hosting on another hosting sites. How does Bubble do that when it's building on a large scale?
Yeah, so Bubble will actually scale with you. If you take a look at our plans and pricing, I'm just going to actually pull that up really quick. What is it? So our pricing page will kind of break down what each offers, but the thing to think about is how much capacity your app will require. Capacity is this thing that we use a lot to throw around. It just basically means, what does your app require to run? How much does it need? What is it, how many users are going to be using your app? As your app scales, you're going to want to use more capacity. But we like to think that the way that our Bubble apps scale, you can host any size of app on Bubble and it will work. We have some really large apps that are hosted on Bubble. Once your app gets to a place where maybe you need more than what our production plan has, we offer a dedicated instance. So you can have your own dedicated server, your own dedicated box, which allows you to keep your app in a more secure environment. It doesn't get affected by any other apps that live on our main server. So all of these, the hobby, the personal, the professional, and the production plan, live on our main server. So if your app, gets really big, you can host it on a dedicated server and have a little more control over everything and how it runs on that server. So that is kind of like the top tier, and we are really excited about how that really allows our users' apps to scale kind of to the max and get as big as they want to get, and as with as many users as you get. And again, you can find more about that down here. Dedicated solutions. If that's something you're really interested in knowing more about, you can contact our team and we can give you some more information about how dedicated boxes work. I'm going to put this link in here as well, just so you all have it.
Okay. Hello. I joined the meeting kind of late, but
okay.
are there let's say apps that can be some sort of inspiration to us when starting to use Bubble? Like, are there some inspiring examples or applications that have been built with Bubble?
Yeah, so again, I think checking out our blog is a really great place to find those. This is a really great place to get a feel for what our users have been building. We only feature apps that we at Bubble find inspiring, so you can really get a good idea of what's been built here. We have our App of the Day series. So the App of the Day really allows you to kind of browse through all the apps that we think are really, really spectacular that have been built. And then, you get to we interview the developers, so you can see, talk to them how they built it, why they built it, and then you can look at the features of the app directly from here. So I really recommend checking this out. It's a really great place to get a feel for what is possible with Bubble. Yeah, I hope that helps. I really don't have any one specific app that I want to say because I think they're all pretty spectacular that we feature. So definitely spend some time playing around and going through this app of the day. I'll put the app of the day link in here too, so you have access to that.
Okay, thank you. I'll check it out.
Great. All right. If there are no more questions, I just want to thank you all so much for having me today. I really appreciated being here and getting to share with you how Bubble works. This is really, really exciting.
Thank you very much, Carla. It was really enlightening and eye-opening. After the
Great.
last session that we had, it was kind of like, we got some examples on tools that we could use for no code, but this is very, very explanatory and extensive. Thank you very much for your time and for sharing your knowledge. So
Great.
we have the links to the coupon codes and the other, the blog, the academy and all that, so everyone can check that out to get more insights. We are recording this session currently and we would upload it on our YouTube, so you can always go over it again if there's some parts that you didn't really get very much and all that. So on that note, thank you very much, everyone. Stay tuned to our channels, online, social media. We're going to be having some very awesome events, very similar to this, though this one was exceptionally awesome. Thank you again, Carla. I do hope you enjoy watching WandaVision this evening.
Thank you. I'm really excited.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Carla.
So any other person that'd like to join our WhatsApp group to get